Habits, whether good or bad, are like a double-edged sword. They can lift you up, helping you live a better life, or they can hold you back over time. So, have you ever asked yourself, are you improving every day, or are you still stuck in the same place, with little change and growth compared to last year? Today, I am excited to introduce you to a book that can change your life, Atomic Habits, by James Clear. Known as a guide to transforming yourself, this book delivers an important message. Changing your life begins with changing your identity. Instead of relying only on willpower to control habits, make them an inseparable part of who you are. Building and maintaining habits has long been a widely discussed topic in personal development. The book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, is a standout work, often considered an effective guide to habit formation. While many other books approach the subject from a psychological perspective or offer practical tips and techniques, Atomic Habits is unique for its concise delivery, solid arguments, and practical advice. The core point emphasized in the book is that changing habits isn't just about willpower, but also about changing personal identity. Rather than just trying to maintain habits externally, the book encourages a deep internal transformation. This helps turn positive habits into an inseparable part of one's life. Part 1. Live like a bamboo shoot. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Good habits are the strong foundation for a successful life. However, many people overlook small changes in daily life, believing that success must come from grand, breakthrough actions. This mindset often causes the value of small, accumulated improvements to be forgotten. We procrastinate on these small steps time and again, without realizing that these tiny advances are the key to unlocking long-lasting success. A critical mistake is that we often give up perseverance because we fail to recognize the significant value hidden in daily small changes. Yet, it is these seemingly minor actions that allow us to create compound interest in life. There is an interesting formula mentioned in the book. If you improve yourself by just 1% each day over a year, by the end, you will be 37 times better. Conversely, if you let yourself regress by 1% each day, after a year, your abilities will nearly drop to zero. Many people think this is just a mechanical analogy, but set aside your doubts and try this formula. When we haven't started making changes, early conclusions are merely excuses. Tiny changes can lead to huge results, because maintaining habits is essentially creating compound interest for your life. Look at the graph of the latent period of compound interest. When we do something, we often idealize our actions, believing that the goal is a straight upward line because we always hope to see immediate results. But in reality, establishing a good habit follows a curve. At the beginning of adjusting a habit, you will notice that the curve initially dips. At this point, when you don't see much difference, it's easy to get discouraged and question whether your efforts are worth it. This downward curve is no different from the valley of disappointment. Many people fall into it and give up halfway. However, you need to believe that once you can persevere beyond the tipping point, the results will undoubtedly appear. This is a common trait of any compound interest process. The strongest results always come later. Just as in philosophy, the law of quantity and quality states that changes in quantity up to a certain level will transform into qualitative changes. This certain level here is also the breakthrough point through the latent period of compound interest when we establish habits. Like the bamboo shoot, in the first 5 years, Regardless of how ideal the environment is, we hardly notice any growth. But after 5 years, like magic, it will start growing at a speed of 30 centimeters per day and can reach a height of 27 meters after 6 weeks. It turns out that during those 5 years, the bamboo was accumulating potential. During that time, it was rooting deeply into the ground, just waiting for the day to rise tall and far. The deeper the roots, the bigger the tree. How can such growth not lead to greatness? So, live like a bamboo shoot. Always remember, no matter how small, change has value. Part 2. If you aim only for the goal, you will fail. If you only focus on the result you want, mentally, it's like trapping yourself in a narrow perspective. Every hidden aspect of any goal carries the illusion that once I achieve the goal, I will be happy. This perspective is like a chain. It causes you to delay joy, thinking that happiness will only come when the goal is achieved. But when you reach it, you certainly won't be as happy as you expect. Sometimes, it's replaced by a strange feeling of emptiness. That's because, at that point, you start looking forward to the next milestone. When you concentrate on a specific goal, your motivation is, I must achieve that. This motivation will push you forward. But once you've reached the goal, this flame of motivation within you will also fade. That's why many people fall back into their old state, returning to old habits after completing the set goal. You need to remember that forming habits isn't about aiming for a goal to win, but about building a system of habits with a gradually and continuously expanding cycle. Therefore, you need to stop the mindset of focusing only on the result when implementing any habit. The best way to maintain morale is to focus on the process, focus on the present. You don't need to reserve happiness or assume a successful scenario to feel satisfied. You won't need to wait for any moment to allow yourself to be happy. Instead, you can truly be happy right now and throughout the process of maintaining that habit. Certainly, this mindset will make it easier for you to persevere and endure. Part 3. The secret to maintaining habits. Know your identity. According to research, behind every system of actions is a system of beliefs, and behavior that doesn't align with identity won't last long. What does this mean? Here, you must pay attention to the words identity and beliefs. Your beliefs and identity play a significant role in the behavior changes you make. Before wanting to do something, let your beliefs become that person. That is, before forming a habit, you must determine who you want to become. Who you believe you are will decide your behavior. The stronger the belief, the more persistent the behavior will be. And as behavior is repeated, the belief will continue to be strengthened, and your identity will become clearer. This is a cycle of sustainable and long-lasting development. It allows you to continuously grow and will lead you to make changes that can alter your destiny. For example, if you want to maintain the habit of running, you need to identify yourself as an athlete. If you want to read more, to write books, or create content, you need to see yourself as a creator. If you don't clearly understand yourself before acting, you will only ever achieve so much, or in the process, you will always feel difficulties and hesitation. Therefore, remember that habits are a way to express who you are. You must first understand yourself, know who you want to become, and then, through your belief in who you are, establish a system of habits to create a happy life and develop yourself. From this perspective, let's think in reverse for a moment to realize something. We must stop labeling ourselves or others. An example is parents who always want their children to study hard and be self-disciplined. Whenever they see their child watching TV or playing around, They immediately scold, saying, "Why are you so lazy?" Labels like lazy, careless, or playful can act like self-fulfilling prophecies, and if you keep repeating them, they can eventually become a reality. Part 4. Go straight to the basic logic of forming a habit. We need to clearly understand how a habit operates before taking action. This isn't just a point of knowledge. It also allows you to explore the deep-rooted causes of habit nature. If you don't understand this, you will be stuck in incomplete actions. So specifically, what are the 4 steps? They are cue, craving, response, and reward. Let's take an example. When you hear the sound of a Facebook message notification, that's the cue. As soon as you hear the notification sound, you immediately want to know who messaged you and what they need. This is the craving. Then, you reach out and grab your phone to open the message. This is your response. Finally, after reading the message, you find out who is looking for you and what they want to say. This action satisfies your need, and that is the reward. Think about it for a moment. Don't you see that most of the actions in our daily lives are based on the principle of these 4 steps of habit operation? This includes all actions such as putting on clothes, wearing shoes, turning on the lights, brushing teeth, or snacking, etc. So you need to pay attention to the fact that once a habit starts functioning, it can't be stopped. For example, you tell yourself, "Today, I will go home and read 20 pages of a book." But as soon as you sit down on the sofa, you immediately take out your phone, then lie down, turn on the cool air conditioner, and then open Facebook to browse. After that, you continue scrolling through TikTok, and before you know it, the whole evening has passed. These actions are a chain of habits you've formed before. They make it so that you don't need to think at all. You just automatically act. Therefore, you need to understand the principle of how a habit operates. From there, you can overcome bad habits and take precise actions to build good habits. Part 5. The 4 steps to maintaining a habit. The first step is to make it obvious. In fact, the strongest sense for humans is vision. Vision accounts for up to 90% of the total capacity of all the senses in the body. If you can take full advantage of visual cues, you can successfully implement the cue phase of a habit. Suppose you want to develop the habit of reading, but if books are always piled up in a corner of the room and only noticed when needed, how can you form this habit? To make reading a vital part of your life, you need to ensure that books frequently appear in front of you. An effective way is to place books in easy-to-see and easy-to-reach places, such as on the sofa, on the TV stand, on the nightstand, or on the study desk. Places that are at eye level. Carrying a small book with you is also a way to take advantage of any free moment to read whenever you have the opportunity. This principle is similar when you want to change a bad habit. You must remove the triggers in your life. For example, when the afternoon comes, you might crave snacks, especially if you work in an office. But instead of buying unhealthy snacks like sugary treats or milk tea, you should replace them with fruits or nutritious nuts and place them where you can easily see and grab them. This way, you can replenish your energy while maintaining your figure and health. When you no longer see unhealthy snacks, or it's not easy to sit at the gaming table or use addictive apps, and when there are no clear and frequent reminders, the behavior will not be easily triggered, and thus your bad habits will gradually be eliminated. The second step is to make it irresistible. Here is a very important formula that can encourage you to form a good habit. Habit stacking combined with pairing with interests. Observe this formula. Habit stacking is when, after a current habit, you perform a habit you need to change. For example, after taking off your work clothes, I will put on my sports shoes and go to the gym. After finishing this cup of coffee, I will read for an hour, etc. As for pairing with interests, it means that after a habit I need, I will do a habit I want. In psychology, this is also known as interest bundling. This is the result of research by Professor David Premack, which means using high-frequency behaviors to reinforce low-frequency behaviors. With this method, you will make maintaining a habit more appealing. In case you find it difficult to control your cravings, what should you do? The answer is to borrow the power of the group. Here, take advantage of the memory in our genetic code. Our human ancestors could not survive alone. Whether faced with wild animals or disasters, you always needed tribe members nearby to feel safe and comfortable. The need to establish close relationships with others is deeply rooted in us. Therefore, based on this, borrow the power of the group to eliminate your bad habits. For example, you should join a running group or a group that shares the same interests, or a training class. If you don't fully participate, you may be reminded or expelled from the group. Naturally, for some people, to avoid this, they will become more diligent and active. Now, let's move on to step number 3. The third step in transforming habits is to make everything easy to do. The main principle here is to reduce the difficulty. Suppose you want to maintain the habit of going to the gym. Don't focus too much on which gym is cheaper, which has more equipment, or which has better personal trainers, etc. Instead, go to the gym closest to your home, where you can easily go to work out first. Reduce your resistance to action by optimizing your environment. Additionally, maintain the 2-minute rule from the very beginning when forming a habit. You need to understand that in life, there are always a few decisive moments that will make a big difference in your life. The moment you decide to cook or order takeout, the moment you choose to bike or drive to work, the moment you decide to scroll through your phone or read a book. These moments are the crossroads of your life. Whether you have a good day or a bad day often depends on the series of these decisive moments. If you can accumulate more right moments in a day, they will eventually lead you to a completely different result. Therefore, the author advises us that when starting a new habit, don't spend more than 2 minutes on it to avoid difficulties in persistence. Instead of forcing yourself to read a book every night before bed, set a goal to read 1 to 2 pages. The meaning of the 2-minute rule is that no matter what, you must make yourself take that first small step. Maintaining a habit is truly difficult, but if you start easily, the next actions will naturally follow. Small, humble actions are actually very powerful. You must believe that once you start doing the right things, everything will become much easier. On the contrary, if you want to eliminate a bad habit, you need to create obstacles for that habit. If you can't stop looking at your phone, uninstall all the time-wasting apps. If you can't stop playing games, make it really difficult to open any game. The final step in transforming habits is to make it enjoyable. We need to understand that the reason bad habits are so hard to break is that they always provide us with immediate pleasure and satisfaction. When playing games, you can achieve a sense of accomplishment when overcoming challenges, or when eating sweets, you temporarily satisfy your current taste. However, our brains often underestimate distant threats. Bad habits bring immediate pleasure, but the long-term consequences can be extremely harmful, while good habits are quite the opposite. Therefore, you must be cautious with things that can be quickly enjoyed. The sooner you question whether it will bring long-term benefits, the better. To develop a good habit, all you need to do is add a little instant happiness to any habit that brings long-term benefits. Conversely, add discomfort and pain to bad habits. One of the effective ways to increase immediate satisfaction is to regularly track your habits. It's very simple. Get a habit tracker and stick it on the wall where it's easy to see. Mark off each time you successfully complete an action. This simple act is actually a process of self-rewarding, which will help you continuously improve. There are two things to emphasize. First, persist even when it's difficult, rather than giving up. No matter how tough things get, not giving up helps maintain your personal identity. Remember, giving up twice in a row can lead to forming a bad habit. Second, don't let the measurement become the goal. When the measurement becomes the goal, it will no longer serve as an effective metric. This is a very famous management saying. For example, when a company only focuses on KPIs, employees will just try to meet those metrics, but in reality, they won't be able to perform their jobs effectively. Similarly, if you just go through the motions to complete your habit tracker, it won't mean anything. Tracking is just the beginning and a method to help us form good habits, but don't consider it the ultimate goal. Don't live just to track, and don't live just to focus on goals. These are the 4 essential steps to forming good habits and eliminating bad ones. To summarize this video, the content has been presented quite thoroughly. However, some important points from the book need to be noted so you can apply them more effectively in your life. Part 6. Important reminder. One essential thing to emphasize is that habit formation is a day-by-day accumulation process, like building compound interest and investing time consistently. However, each person's time is limited. So how do you know if you've invested correctly in certain habits? The key is to recognize the differences between individuals in life, because everyone has their own path. The first task is to discover what you excel at and identify areas that need improvement and change. In the book, the author provides the answer. Do things you find interesting, but others find boring. A sign that you're suited to a task isn't just whether you like it, but whether you can endure the difficulties of that task more easily than most people. When others feel miserable, but you think it's no big deal, it doesn't challenge you, or you find it enjoyable while doing it. The second thing to note is not to become too dependent on habits. Habits also have their traps. In reality, when you turn something into a routine, the final result can become mediocre. When someone is stuck in daily habits, everything they do is just a repetitive action. Being overly reliant on habits can prevent breakthroughs and creativity. So, how do we avoid this? The answer is, don't expect your habits to be a straight line. Instead, expect them to be a curve, then another curve, and yet another curve. To do this, you must put yourself through deliberate practice. At the same time, the highest state of deliberate practice is entering a flow state. Flow isn't a habit. Flow is something you need to focus on completely and absolutely in the process. The most effective habit formation is making yourself enter the flow state, then master it. But the key is to keep practicing deliberately to improve and gradually become a master. The last takeaway is that you need to frequently reflect and reassess yourself. Don't let personal identity control you too much. Previously, we emphasized the importance of beliefs and personal identity in forming habits. However, if you become too dependent on that identity, when you fail to reach a goal, you may easily feel lost, disappointed, and become weaker. One last word to summarize everything in today's video. These small habits don't just add up, they multiply, stack on top of each other, and ultimately create a compound effect that can completely change your life. After forming a new habit, it will bring about a series of other positive habit changes. If you can find a good starting point in your life, immerse yourself in it, and make your life change dramatically, that's a wonderful and trustworthy thing. I wish all of us success in finding the lever for our lives and using the habit-building system as a tool to make your life more meaningful. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Support the channel with a like. Don't forget to leave your thoughts or comments below so everyone can learn from each other. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to catch the latest videos. Once again, thank you and see you in the next videos.